Hi everyone, my name is Josie Pemlot and this is my presentation on understanding students with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. How many students with ADHD are currently being served in the United States? According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, which uses parent surveys and healthcare claims, the percent of children who are estimated to have ADHD changes and the measurements can vary. While the American Psychiatric Association states that about 5% of children have ADHD, other studies show that these could be higher based on some community samples. In 2016, about 6.1 million children ages 2 to 17 had been diagnosed with ADHD, and this was based on parent surveys. The breakdown of this included 388,000 children ages 2 to 5, approximately 2.4 million children from the ages of 6 to 11, and for the ages of 12 to 17, the number was about 3.3 million students had been diagnosed. How has the number of students identified increased in recent years, and what are the reported reasons for that increase? There has been an upward trend for students older than age of 5 being diagnosed with ADHD. From 2005 to 2014, attention deficit hyperactivity disorder diagnosis rose from about 6.8% to 14.4%. And also between these years, more females were being diagnosed than males. The ratio of males to females decreased from 2.94% to 1.86%. And also during this time period, the usage of ADHD medication also increased. The usage was about 3.57% in 2005, and it was up to 8.51% by 2014. One of the leading factors that may contribute to this increase is both the doctor's and the parents' view or attitude towards attention or hyperactivity problems. Some parents nowadays are thinking that if they can be provided, or if their child can be provided with a diagnosis of ADHD and therefore be put on medication to treat that this may improve their child's academic achievements. This may also be one of the reasons that there has been such a dramatic increase in female diagnosing. What are the specific behaviors or characteristics of students with ADHD? And in what ways do those characteristics make it difficult for students to learn or to participate in school? While it's entirely normal for children to fidget or daydream, sometimes, they forget their homework or they act without thinking, these characteristics can sometimes be something else. Inattention, acting impulsive, and hyperactivity are the three primary characteristics of ADHD. And these behaviors can lead to problems both at home and at school. They can affect the child's ability to learn and even getting along with other students. The signs and symptoms are usually seen before the age of 7. However, these behaviors can sometimes be hard to distinguish between actually being ADHD and just normal kid behavior. One way to know if it is worth a closer look and could actually be ADHD is if the signs and symptoms appear across the board, which means, they appear both at home, at school and during playtime. While some people picture a student with ADHD as a student who's constantly moving or bouncing off the walls or disrupting the class, this may not always be the case. It depends on which characteristic is, which one is predominant, either inattention, impulsivity, or hyperactivity. Some of these make it extremely difficult for children to learn or to participate in classrooms. Kids with inattentiveness have trouble focusing or concentrating. They often bounce from task to task, or sometimes they just skip steps, and they also, like I said, have trouble concentrating, especially if there are other things going on around them. Having hyperactivity may have a child trying to do several things at one time. They have difficulty sitting still, are constantly fidgeting. Hyperactivity may also cause a student to have a very quick temper or a short fuse, or talk excessively. Self-control is a big problem for a student if they have impulse tendencies. They can also be moody and tend to overreact emotionally. They can be viewed at by other students as being disrespectful, weird, or even extremely needy. Having these behaviors just makes it hard to participate in school because they are more interested in what is going on around them than paying attention to what's being taught. And not being able to concentrate also makes it difficult because they miss out on a lot of the information being taught. So they're unable to, pass that test or finish their assignments. Do all students with ADHD demonstrate the same characteristics or degree of behavior? No. Not all students exhibit the same characteristics or even the same kind of behavior. Some students that have ADHD do not need to be placed in special education. However, they do need some, different accommodations in the classroom. While many students with ADHD seem to have problems at school, there's some that don't. The students, there are students that fidget and, are always in constant motion, and there's some that just sit there and they just have trouble focusing. Some students just need to be kept on task, and they're not disruptive to the class at all. According to IDEA 2004, under what category are students with ADHD identified? There are 3 categories that ADHD may fall under in IDEA 2004. Often children that are diagnosed with ADHD fall under the category of other health impairment, or OH. However, depending on the severity of their diagnosis, they may also qualify under the category of specific learning disability or severe emotional disturbance. Okay, so here we're going to discuss some effective class-wide interventions for all students, but especially for those who display characteristics of attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. Students with ADHD tend to be a heterogeneous group. There is no one intervention that will work for all students. Because of this, classroom modifications need to be tailored to the unique needs of each individual student. There are a variety that can be used. Task duration is one of them. Because students with ADHD have extremely short attention spans, assignments need to be short. and letting a student know how they did should be immediate. An idea on how to do this is to break up long projects and possibly using timers to help keep shorter time limits. Peer tutoring is also another good classroom intervention. This provides students with frequent and immediate feedback. This helps set up those students with success. Scheduling is a great one, a great intervention. Because students with ADHD, because their behavior worsens as the day goes on, it would be beneficial for teachers to schedule the more academic subjects in the morning as opposed to the afternoon, so that those students are able to stay on task better. Scheduling the non-academic activities for the afternoon is helpful. Another one is providing auditory cues, such as using a tape of tones to let those students know that they need to stay on task. So playing those tones at different times will be helpful and will help improve those students, especially those with ADHD, on their productivity. Another thing that we need to keep in mind is that rules that are given to students with ADHD need to be specific. They also need to be well defined and seen frequently. So making sure that there are visual cues put around the room would make it easier for students to follow those rules. One big intervention that can be helpful is having a productive physical movement. Sitting still is extremely hard for students with ADHD, so allowing those students a chance to get up, move around is very, very helpful. One way that you can do this is, give them a note to send to the office, give them frequent bathroom breaks, that kind of thing, and letting them stand up and do their work instead of always having to sit there is also really good. And teachers also need to be flexible and must be able to kind of modify according to what the needs are of their student with ADHD. So that is my presentation. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a great week.